Welcome to an episode of Saints and Songs. In this series, we discuss a different saint in each video, telling their story or my experience with them. And then there's a song written by me about that saint or written to that saint, and we play that song. In this particular video, we'll be discussing the following great saint. Padre Pio. Padre Pio is our Sergius Aquinas saint of the day. He was born 1897, received the stigmata in 1918, died in 1968. We'll be telling the story of a very personal experience that I had with him, and also that will be followed up with a song written by me, Sergius Aquinas, entitled A Moment with Padre Pio. Now, let's get right into Padre Pio's story. And you know, it's funny, Padre Pio is one of those saints you could talk about forever. Very, very popular saint, very recent saint, and a very controversial saint in his lifetime and still today in some ways. An over-the-top saint. Anytime you have someone who had the stigmata and bilocated and had prophecies and that there were so many healings associated with, and quite honestly, true stories spread about him as well as legends spread about him that probably were not true, sometimes by people who were fans of his, and then lies spread about him by people who were enemies of his. And the way he wrestled with the devil, when he always saw his guardian angel and could communicate and converse with his guardian angel. And as a young child, he thought that was something everybody could do. And found out, you know, when he was about 6 or 7, not everybody sees their guardian angel and can just talk to their guardian angel. So I'm going to leave the study of his life up to people who want to go study his life and go through all that. It's not something I feel I can treat in a short amount of time, but what I can talk about is the experience that I had with Padre Pio that led me to start venerating him as a great saint, and that made me get very, very close with him. I was going through a particular time period in my life a few years ago, probably about 5 years ago now. I was in a relationship with a woman that I was in love with, but it was not a holy relationship, and I really needed to get out of it. I was also struggling with a lot of other sexual behaviors, and a lot was going on in my life at that time that was not good. It was not holy, and I was kind of in and out of church. I was having to go to confession a whole lot. I was dealing with a lot of guilt and shame and fear. And it was one night, actually, at a My House Men's Group meeting, which is a Catholic group for men dealing with issues around sexual integrity. I talked about how I thought I used pornography as an escape for pain, and how I thought I was simply going to have a very difficult time giving up pornography. But that even more than that, what I thought I was going to have a hard time with if I ended the relationship with the woman I was involved with is simply the lack of physical contact, not so much sex, but the lack of physical contact, the lack of being held. And the idea that I was getting to a point in my life where I felt like God was really calling me to have a celibate life, and the idea that I would never be held by a woman again was deeply, deeply distressing to me. It was. And I was very afraid about it. Well, the day after this, I talked about this in this meeting, and I'm praying hard about what I'm supposed to do, and, you know, really trying to start living with sexual integrity and living in line with my faith. I went to an exhibit of Padre Pio's relics at a church in New Orleans. And I remember first, as soon as I entered the church, just feeling that I was really in the presence of holiness. And of course, I always feel that way. We're in the presence of a much greater holiness when we go into church. We're in the presence of Christ. But it was just like I could sense Padre Pio as well. And there's a woman that I don't even know her name. I refer to her as the Padre Pio lady. I've seen her there, and I've seen her a couple of other times at other places where I went to where Padre Pio's relics were being displayed. I think she's a keeper of some set of relics of Padre Pio, and she wears kind of like this full body length habit, like a nun, but it's got a huge picture of Padre Pio on it. And she would talk to people when you would go up to venerate the relics, and she would touch some of the relics to objects if you wanted her to do that, or to you, or hold the relic over you and pray over you and things of this nature. I remember one of the more interesting relics was a part of one of the gloves that was stained with his blood. Padre Pio, of course, suffered from the stigmata and the wounds of Christ, and he bled. But anyway, I get up to the front of the church, and I had a strange feeling. I was in awe. I was also a little bit nervous, and I was feeling just more on edge than I had expected to feel there. And I got up there to venerate the relics and to allow her to pray over me, and I had some medals and things that I wanted blessed and I wanted touched to the relics. And the woman looked at me and she said, "You left something in the car that you need to get blessed." And all I could think of was my phone. And I went out to the car and I got my phone. And reason for having my phone blessed may have been that all my Catholic apps are on my phone, and I do a lot of prayer on my phone, but actually I had also been looking at a lot of pornography on my phone. And I brought my phone up, and she prayed over my phone, and she touched the relics to my phone, and she told me she never wanted me to look at pornography again. And then she made me sit down in a chair, and she prayed over me, and all of a sudden she sighed. And she said, "Oh, you want to be held by a woman so badly, don't you?" And she said, "From now on, when you feel that way, I want you to let Mother Mary hold you." And she prayed for me, and she talked to me about Padre Pio for a minute, and I had this intense experience of him being there, and of him loving me, and of him letting me know that he would pray for me. And I knew that it was not her that had read my soul. It was Padre Pio who had read my soul and then given the information to her. I was just absolutely convinced of it. And I had tremendous peace when I went to the pew and prayed later. And for the next 78 days, I did not have sex with my girlfriend. I did not masturbate. I did not look at pornography. And it was what had, up to that point, one of the longer such stretches that I had had in my life. And really, my problems did not return until I made some very, very stupid decisions that allowed the problems to return, and that allowed the problem with lust and the problem with not trusting God to return. So that's been one of the struggles that I've had throughout my life. And it's funny, with the four saints we're talking about today, two of the saints, Sister Clare and also St. Mary of Egypt, who I'll talk about last, are people who struggled with purity and alcoholism and addiction and struggled with things like that. Now, Padre Pio had a different set of struggles. He would get attacked and beaten up by the devil, and he would be mocked and humiliated by people who didn't believe him when miraculous things were happening to him. And he was a humble man who just kind of wanted to be off by himself praying, but he was kind of called into this position where he was very famous and had pilgrims coming to see him and everything like that. But he was a very holy man. And St. Therese, of course, had been very holy and never struggled with this kind of sin. But just goes to show you that you can end up getting very close both with the type of saints that were holy from birth and the type of saints that underwent these great conversion experiences and converted, and that you can relate to. And both types of saints can be very, very important in your life. But One thing I experienced with Therese and with Padre Pio and with Saint Mary of Egypt, who I'll talk about next, is that the saint picks you. You don't pick the saint. You think that you're going to go through life and that you're maybe going to pick 2 or 3 saints to be your favorite, that you're going to try to emulate, and that you're going to study and you're going to ask them to pray for you. But there ends up being a saint that you find out's been praying for you for a long time, and that saint picked you. And for me, that was not only the case with Saint Therese of Lisieux, but it was also very, very much the case with Saint Padre Pio. I've written a song about my experience with Saint Padre Pio, and it's also about him and some aspects of his life. And I'll go ahead and I will share that song with you now. God bless.
I entered the church with his relics on display. I dropped to my knees and began to pray. I'd been ensnared in sin, I was not free. As I approached the relics, their keeper peered into me. She told my story, was he showing her? As she told me how to escape, my soul did stir. She said, you long to be held by a woman so gently. Let Mother Mary hold you like a baby. Saint Padre Pio's spirit was shining so bright. He prayed my soul out of darkness, I was filled with light. With the grace of a saint, he bore the pain, fighting demons fierce, yet never in vain. His prayers like armor, fortress of light. In the struggle for souls, he leads us to right. Of Saint Padre Pio, guide us with your hand. In battles of faith, together we stand. Your wounds like Christ show us the path through the night. With your spirit around us, our hearts shine so bright. We deeply contemplate your stigmata, safely surrounded by the angels' armada. O prophet of popes, lend us your hopes. O dearest reader of souls, help us to pray away our mold. I knelt at his relics, my heart filled with hope. In that sacred moment, I learned how to cope with every whispered prayer. My soul leapt to peaks, I was healed with tears streaming down my cheeks. The weight of the world lifted from my soul. With Padre beside me, I felt truly whole. Saint Padre Pio, guide us with your hand. In battles of faith, together we stand. Your wounds like Christ show us the path through the night. With your spirit around us, our hearts shine so bright. We deeply contemplate your stigmata, safely surrounded by the angels' armada. O prophet of popes, lend us your hopes. O dearest reader of souls, help us to pray away our mold. With faith as our anchor, we rise from despair. In the love of Saint Pio, we find our prayer. Padre, lead us to Jesus. Ask him to never leave us.
Thank you for looking at this Saints and Songs video. Please look at the next Saints and Song video. And please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's close in prayer to the greatest saint ever, whose glory is beyond that of any other mere human or any angel, our Mother, Mary. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen.